Hi, all you cave dwellers, and welcome to the Cavern Podcast. The Cavern Club, the most famous club in the world. From the Beatles and the Stones to the Arctic Monkeys and Adele. Join us on our podcast for Cavern Conversations. Each episode we talk to a special guest with real Cavern connections. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Keats, and you are listening to Series 1, Episode 10. Now, there is a picture of today's guest in the Cavern Club, and the plaque underneath it reads, I won't say the name of the legend that I'm about, but it says, Legend and Lunatic. Now, I know this because I wrote it. The plaque could have said a lot more, believe me, but there wasn't enough space. But all joking aside, our guest today is a musician, songwriter, Grammy Award-winning producer, an actor, TV personality, Cavern Club Wall of Famer, International Beatle Week favourite, someone I regard personally as a friend, but above all, an absolute lunatic. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast, Mark Hudson. Thanks for coming on, it's great. This is Series 1 of this podcast, so we had to have you on because we go back quite a few years now. I think, I'm looking here because I've made notes. 2011 was the first time we met.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 years,
wow.
Mark.
It's just...
Yeah, it's crazy.
So fast, man.
Yeah. That was when you came over to International Beatle Week for the first time. So we'll talk about that. Me and you could sit here and we could just, as we do when, we could just talk.
When we're together.
Yeah, we could just chat and get stories, mainly your stories, not the clean ones, the other ones. But you know what? I'd like to almost find out more about you and let our listeners find out more about what's got you to where you are. And I want to go back to like the early days, Portland, Oregon. Is that the right pronunciation of Oregon?
That's it, Oregon.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you get it wrong, but so you were born there. Was that a creative, arty type of place to grow up?
Yeah. You know what, John? It's weird. The Northwest in America, it really blew up when it came down to the grunge, the Nirvana, and all those, Soundgarden, and Seattle and the Northwest became like a hub for that. But it also was in the 60s. That whole area, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Tacoma, all of the big bands would go there. I actually, in those days when they did a concert, there was 9 bands on it. And Herman's Hermits were the headliner, and their opening act was The Who.
Wow.
And then it works all the way down at the end of the list, My Brothers and I.
Okay.
And I got to watch Keith Moon play drums every night. And I'd stand on the side of the stage, and he just was a maniac, but a beautiful one.
Well, this is a story I've never heard, that you were on the same bill as The Who. So
there's a million of them. And Spencer Davis. There's it went all the way down to Harper's Bazaar, and we were called the New Yorkers. I was like 16, 17.
I wanted to look at that because were you always playing music with your brothers? Because we'll go on to the Hudson brothers, but were you all? Who's the eldest?
Well, I'm in the middle of the 3 brothers. I'm in the middle.
So you're the difficult middle child like me.
I am the troubled one, John.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why we get on.
Yeah, but it also goes, when you're also the middle one, the first brother gets all the new clothes. You get the hand-me-downs, and my little brother got new clothes because he was 5 by 5. He was sort of chubby. Therefore, you wonder why I have this. It's making up for my childhood with no color.
Well, I understand that. I totally now because are you a Virgo or you're just on the cusp of being a Virgo? You're 23rd.
Leo.
Yeah, you're 23rd.
Anyone that knows me would never say that I'm as mellow as a Virgo. You're a maniac. You're a lion. You're a
yeah. Okay,
a Leo.
So the troubled middle child starts. Was it with me? It was my older brother started playing guitar, and I thought, because I'm like you, I've got two brothers, younger and older, and I thought, my older brother started playing music, and he was doing quite well, and I thought, well, if he's doing it, it can't be that hard. Was it that sort of situation?
It was almost exactly the same. My older brother, well, number one, it was a big Italian family to begin with. And so, Hudson became my last name because we thought the Salerno brothers should be shot out of a cannon or juggling. It sounded like a circus act. And at that point, until the Godfather movie, Italians weren't considered too high on the list. So we picked a WASP name, Henry Hudson, Rock Hudson, the Hudson River. And it became the name, and it stuck. But the big Italian family, all my aunts had mustaches. Everybody was always like singing and dancing. And so as a little boy, I was hearing Frank Sinatra and Stagger Lee. And I was just a kid. But I'd see me and my mom dancing with my uncle. And it became this thing where we all would sing music. But my brother Bill got in a band. And this is all because of the Beatles, I would only say, because they had invaded us and we wanted to be them. My brother Bill had a band, and I would go watch them, just as the middle brother watching my older brother play guitar and do "This Could Be the Last Time." And I'm loving it, but I have nothing to do with it. And one day, the drummer, and he was the rich guy or the guy with equipment, so they would always rehearse in his basement. And he had drums and little amps and stuff. And he had to go on a vacation with his family, and there was no drummer. And so I said to my brother Bill, this was like an act of God or something. I went, I can play drums. And he laughed at me and said, you're crazy. I went, I can. And I sat down behind the drums, and a gift from God or Buddy Rich or Ringo, I sat down and I knew how to play. Now, I'm not talking, the guy in Rush or, Vinnie Colaiuta. I could only drum like Ringo because that's all I knew and all that I loved. And he went, wow, you're pretty good. And then I became the drummer. And when the guy got home, the guy found out, threw us out of the basement, and we had to start all over again. But I became the drummer of the band.
I was going to say, in my day, the drummer always had to be the guy who had a van. So in your case, the drummer had so you lost the rehearsal, but so this is two brothers in the band now.
Yes.
Okay. And what was the next move on that?
Okay. Well, the next move, my brother Brett was younger, the youngest, the baby of the family, and he got sick, like real sick, and then being the over emotional dork that I am, I thought he was dying. And I said, Brett, if you get better, we'll put you in the band. And then his fever dropped in 8 seconds. And I went, oh my God, what have I done? And he became the bass player because we thought he was going to die.
Was he still a little chubby one then?
Oh, no. Yeah, he was 5x5.
Okay.
You couldn't, he was like an ottoman. You could put your feet on his head because he was a block. But he looked like Paul McCartney with bigger lips. So he had that sort of McCartney-esque thing. And we said, okay, and it's a bass, which is only 4 strings. So he can alternate, boom, boom, boom. And he wasn't good at first, but he surely was cute. And that was the beginning of the nucleus of the band.
Well, it's always the easy one, the bass, isn't it? Yeah.
I've always loved, on all the Ringo records that I produced, I played bass. Only because you don't have to worry about strumming or play. It's a different instrument. And obviously when you have a Beatle as your drummer, it's pretty easy to lock in with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so you weren't called the Hudson Brothers, it was the New Yorkers, or was that eventually became that?
Yeah, no. Well, we started out as the My Sirs, and I don't even know what that meant. I think my brother Bill might have been, and he came up with the name, and we became the My Sirs. And then a car dealership approached us because remember, it's the time was different then. Music was open and free, and there was competition, but everybody wanted to jam with each other. It was a different time. And this car dealership came to us and said, we want to support you guys, give you money, give you equipment, pay for your seersucker suits or whatever. And Chrysler Cars called us the New Yorkers.
Okay.
And we figured it's a pretty good name. We got family in New York. And that's when that happened. And that was where the first record deal and all that stuff came from.
So is this, at this point, is it late 60s, early 70s? Is that where?
Yeah, no. It was like a summer of love, 67, 68 was when we signed our first. I was 15.
Right. That's incredible. That's
well,
15.
Yeah. The other thing is we started writing songs, and there's no way they were great, but they had, it's kind of like what punk music did, where the energy was almost more important than the concept of the song. And we were just, I got nothing left in this world. With my pretend Liverpool accent. In this world, I got nothing. Don't sound like John, you bastard. Well, we got a record deal.
So when you actually had hit singles as well, didn't you? Or was that?
Yeah, Well, when we came, once it turned into the Hudson Brothers, we had 2 top 20 songs. At that point, we were writing completely.
All right.
And it's kind of interesting because the big hit, one we wrote with one of the Beach Boys.
Okay.
Rendezvous. And it sounded rendezvous. It sounded like that. So You Are a Star was so Beatles-ish that when it came out, I think Rolling Stone said, you have to hear these guys. Their kinetic pop is very British invasion Beatle. And we got that song was very, very Beatle-y. And then I got to do it years later with Ringo playing drums. So it's sort of like it went full circle. It was top 20. I loved the music industry back then. We knew we were getting messed about and screwed over like everybody did, but it was too important not to do it.
Well, yeah, but everyone gets screwed around in this business when they're younger. Yeah, but you've got to learn from that, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I know, but it's a tough lesson when all you want to do is the music.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be doing the music, and then someone says, "Well, sign this over here, and we're going to take care of you and put you on a billboard." And you're a young kid, and I went, "A billboard?"
Yeah,
and I wasn't even the cute brother, John.
Both brothers can't imagine
that. They were both brothers. Like my brother Bill, dark hair, and he looked like George Hamilton, the actor. Brett looked like Paul McCartney with bigger lips. I was just well endowed and talented. So that's all I had going.
But this is a bit of a common thing, when I've been speaking to people on this series one, is that musicians tend to, they just want to play the music, they just want to write the music. I know the business side of things, you either learn it quick or you make sure you got someone to look after it for you. But so the Hudson Brothers, you haven't hit. How did the transition to the TV happen? Because you had the TV series, which was big.
We replaced Sonny and Cher in the summer. We just were a band. We were a rock band. We were signed to Elton John's label, Rocket Records.
Right.
Bernie Taupin was our producer.
Yes, I read that. I didn't know that about you. I read that he produced it. That's
2 albums, and we wrote songs. It's like that was one of those things. That whole time, just imagine the greatest lyricist in rock is your guy telling you, "Don't do that, do that." He knew, and our personalities. And those days, everything was a bit more, I guess, freer. We were drinking. We were doing a little of this, a little of that. And we were really fun. We didn't really care. All we cared about was making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And then the 3-part harmony, like the Beatles and the Bee Gees and the Searchers, all of those guys, the Hollies, they had all that great harmony. It was natural to us because that's how we grew up.
Yeah, but that's, as brothers, there's 2 things there, isn't it? As brothers, brothers can have that the voices will blend and will work.
No matter what.
Yeah, the Everleys, that we know that works. But also, it's like the Beatles, isn't it? Like when they burst on the scene or did any interviews, early days when they came to America, it was they were just having a laugh with each other, weren't they? And that comes across. So that's the same.
But it really does come across. And obviously, having the Beatles be my reason to exist, when I would see them, even in their interviews, it was sort of out of control, but controlled, because one of them would say something and the other three would laugh. And pick which Beatle was doing it. Ringo with the Elvis thing. And they were having so much fun until it became overwhelming. My brothers and I never got that big where it was overwhelming. We sold out places, screaming girls and all this stuff, but nowhere near what the lads did. The thing was, we loved making each other laugh and have fun.
Well, that radiates, doesn't it? And that comes across the screen, it comes across the stage. That's
no matter what. And when we were at a party, and it was like early 70s now, and we're sitting on the couch, and we'd already recorded our record with Bernie, but no one knew who or what we were. And in the party, Elizabeth Taylor and we're sitting on the couch going, "That's Elizabeth Taylor." And then Elton came in a pink satin suit, and we already waved because we knew him. We were on his label. And then Led Zeppelin came in, all four of them. And we saw them. And I actually made a noise like, because they were so rock and roll-ish. It was like post-Beatles, 71, 72-ish. And they walked in and they were like, rock gods. Immediately went to the bar, and Johnny, I know how you can drink. They were drinking like hard liquor as if it was like something from a shop, a Coca-Cola or a 7-Up.
Was that like an eye opener for you? Because it was like, it was rock and roll.
It was. I mean, we obviously knew the Beatles and even like made our career in our minds, copied their thing, but the fun we were having, we had since we were children. But when you saw Led Zeppelin, the way they were dressed was different. The hair, like everything about them was different and cool.
We've got to talk about the 10 albums you did with Ringo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you've been leading up to that, because that was what, mid-90s? I've got it written down even.
Yeah, even before that, in the late 80s, I was just a songwriter. The Hudson brothers, we'd gone our separates, and I wanted to do what I loved since I was a child, and that was music. And I pursued that. And then Phil Ramone, like the famous Phil Ramone, all the Billy Joel records, Frank Sinatra, Streisand. I think he worked on Ram with McCartney for a bit. It's just, he was like the Pope of pop. And he took me under his wing and said, "You want to learn how to produce?" And I went, "I'll get you coffee. I'll rub your neck. I'll get you a pint. And then he said, "It's your job," and I'll use a different word. "It's your job to take shite." And I went, "I'm ready." And he beat me up for 3 years, telling me how wrong I was all of the time. But I started to learn how to be a producer, that it's not just about, oh, let me make more treble on the guitar or this. It's the psychological part of working with an artist and allowing them to be free and then insert yourself into their world. It's really what George Martin did for the Boys. They were this great rock band, and all of a sudden he started playing harpsichord and string arrangement. It took him to a new level. Phil Ramone did that for me. And then on the Time Takes Time album with Ringo, there were 4 producers, Peter Asher, Jeff Lynne, Don Was, and Phil Ramone. I was under Phil's wing.
Okay.
And there I was in the studio, and Ringo was the drummer. And I always was aware of my boundaries, which I don't have any. And so usually I'm always fighting, "Don't say that, Mark." And then all of a sudden it just comes out and I'm in trouble. So we're there, and Ringo, and like I had met Ringo before, but never like in a working situation. And he was in there singing, and this is after we had cut tracks and whatever. Ringo asked me a question. He went, Mark, should I sing this like that? And like that. And he asked me and not Phil. And Phil Ramone said, it's time. And I went, no, I don't want to leave. I'm not through taking crap from you. I could work with another Beatle if I'm with you. And he just said, if the act is asking you their comfort zone with you, which is an emotional thing. It wasn't really like, nah. It was just like, should I sing it with more rasp? It became like an emotional thing. And he was asking me. And then all of a sudden, Phil Ramone loved me. It wasn't like a bad thing. He just said, you're ready. And I didn't want to because I was scared.
So, but that, I mean, it's interesting. That's another theme that a lot, we talk about on this series. It's that relationship with people, and you're saying about the producing. It's about everything. I mean, everything in life is about getting on with people, and
you're right. No, you're right, John.
And creating that. So next thing you're off that gig, and
right.
And you're
but even when I was on the gig, with Bobby Caldwell, and I don't know if you know him across, guess you wonder how I've been, what she won't do for love. Dear friend of mine. And Phil Ramone says, I want you guys to come and sing backing vocals for Barbra Streisand. And I said, okay. And we go to the studio, and Phil Ramone turns to me, says, remember what I told you about production? That there's more to it than mid-range and tape reverb, that there's an emotional thing where the artist feels comfortable with you flying the plane. And they're allowed to be themselves. And in walks Barbra Streisand. And it was just like, like when someone walks in a room and they're a star, they are without doing anything.
Yeah. Which everyone says that about McCartney, and even the musicians who you would think would be on the same level as McCartney. I've heard this so many times, like people like that. McCartney comes in the room, other musicians go, it's Paul McCartney. So it's Barbra Streisand.
No matter what. I mean, I did the same thing, and I can only tell the truth. But all the records I did with Ringo, I was playing other instruments too. But during the tracks, I was playing the bass, and I would hear the drums, and it's all I knew growing up. And sometimes I would turn around, like if Ringo was back there, I would turn around and I would see him, playing. And then when I would turn away from him, my inner child was going like, it's a Beatle. I'm in the room playing bass with Ringo Starr on the drums. And then I have to turn around like, way to go, Rich. Good take. But as soon as I turned my back, thank God I was wearing brown pants, because it was just sort of like, whoa, it's a Beatle.
Okay.
And Streisand walks in, same thing. It was Ringo with breasts. It was like, it's Barbra Streisand. And she was cool. And she looked at me and Bobby and said, so you're singing backing? And we went, yeah. Okay. So Phil Ramone looks at me and says, like, remember what I told you? And all of a sudden she goes, I'm ready to sing, Phil. And Phil Ramone, ahead of her getting there, said, I want blue lights with a 47 microphone, room temperature water, lyrics printed for people over 40. And she walked in the room, and everything that she desired. This was before she sang. So there was no notes. There was no, let me show you it was none of that. It just was like, okay, Phil, I feel completely perfect and ready to go.
Great.
And she went out, sang it in one take, which I've never done in my life. And that, oh my God, there it was. And when she left, he said, do you see what I mean? And I went, exactly. And so how that ends up translating into everything, even the work that we did together. I know that you're the bastard that you are, and I love you, and whatever you needed it to be, I did my best to give it to you, but with a little punch.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened from that day forward to me. And Ringo had heard a song of mine that I'd written called The Artist. And John Lennon, to me, being my biggest musical inspiration, it was kind of Johnish. And in fact, it's on my song. One of these days you'll hear some of my music, John. I'll send it to you. But Ringo heard it and said, "Oh, that kind of sounds like John. I'll work with him." And my lawyer, it still is Ringo's lawyer. And he goes, "I'll try to set it up." And I'm thinking, this can't even be real. But it was. Ringo shows up at my studio. And this is just as a songwriter. I wasn't a producer. I was just writing songs. Because Ringo had not made a solo album, I think, in 10 or 11 years, something ridiculous. And he was thinking about it again. And I said, I know I can do it. Because all of my research is I knew how John and Paul would write for Ringo. What goes on in your heart? It was that Ringo-esque thing. He shows up, and there he is. And once again, it's another one of those things. He's in my studio, which has so much Beatles stuff. I took stuff off the wall so he wouldn't think I was a stalker. There was pictures and this and that, and I just hide that, put that under the couch. I was doing whatever, so I seemed cooler than I really was. And we sat down. I had an idea for a song. You're the perfect woman. I'm a difficult man. And Ringo went, "Oh, I like that." And I didn't have drums in there, so we set up cardboard boxes with a foot pedal on a cardboard box, and Ringo played cardboard boxes. I didn't have drums then.
That's classic.
And I'm thinking, I see, but you know what? But that says something about how we talked before, even like the Beatles and stuff, they just did it because they did. And Ringo's like, "I need to play drums. This will work." And next thing you know, he's playing on stuff. And that was enough. So it wasn't grand that I'm a Beatle, get me a roadie, have someone rub my neck and set up he just said, "Oh yeah, this will work." And he started playing stuff. So we finished the song. And when I started doing the demo, I fell back to what we were talking about earlier. I started doing the demo. I started doing the only thing that I knew, which was my Hudson brother, my wanting to be a Beatle, having them be the reason I exist. And I applied it to the demo. And Ringo had a blast. He was having so much fun. It was great. And at the end, I made a cassette copy and said, "Well, here, maybe if you're going to make a record again, you can, maybe I'll be lucky enough that you'll do the song. If you want to write some more, I'm here all the time." And I'm trying to sell myself. And he goes, "I'm only going to do it if you produce it." Now, no one in my life ever stood up for me, ever, including my brothers, ever stood up for me going "Yeah, I'll do it, but only if he's doing it with me." And I thought he was joking. I thought, "Oh, that's very sweet. He's making me feel comfortable." And he was the one, went to the label and said, "I'll make a record, but only if Mark Hudson is going to produce it." So the first guy in my life to stand up for me, usually it would be, your cousin, an agent. It was Ringo saying, "I'll do it if he does it."
That's huge.
If he's not doing it, I'm not doing it. And that's the biggest thing ever in your life. I've never forgotten that, and I never will.
No.
And that was the beginning of...
And is that what went into Vertical Man? Was the first album?
Yeah, Vertical Man was the first. And, and it's weird because, Ringo hadn't played in a long time. He was sort of insecure about, I'm making a record. I don't, I want to call my friends and this and that. Whatever. And it's great. When you're a Beatle, he's going to be "Mark, I'd love Brian Wilson to be singing on this one."
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, I don't have his number." And then Ringo just goes, "Oh, Brian, appreciate Ringo." And anyone he would call.
There's a lot of people on that album, isn't there? There's a lot of, it's ridiculous.
A lot. McCartney.
Well, that's what I was going wasn't George on the album as well?
George on the record too. Played 2 guitar solos. George, McCartney, Alanis Morissette. Steven Tyler, the list goes on. Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles, Brian Wilson. And I'm, Johnny, here's what the problem is. As much as I want to pretend to be groovy, I'm really not. I'm not. I am a fan of all of that music.
But isn't that refreshing though, Mark? You know what I mean? Isn't that refreshing to still, and you're still like that now. You're still, ever since I met you back, we were saying 2011, you know, so what's 12 years ago. Well, your enthusiasm for music, for new artists, just for life in general.
But you know what? It's the only thing I'm good at. I can't spell. I'm bad at math, but music is the only thing I'm good at, and really the only thing that I truly enjoy. John, if you remember the first time I came to Liverpool for the fest, you couldn't get me off stage.
No.
Remember, I would show up with the Rockets. I would be over there. You would go into any club. You go like, oh no.
I had a big hook. You know, one of those big hooks.
No, I remember.
I could never get you. Never get you.
I still have the bruise on my neck. But the thing is, I actually love what I do. I love it. And then there I am with a Beatle and all these guys surrounding it, you know, going to Paul McCartney's place in Sussex.
Oh, okay. When was that? What took you there?
That was the Ringo Rama album. And Ringo said, you know, I called Paul and he'll come and he'll do a few things on it. And I went, okay. And so Ringo said, I'll pick you up in the morning, but I got to stay in the Muse house that the Beatles used to be in, but Ringo got it in the divorce, or however it worked out. And he goes, well, you just stay there and I'll pick you up. So you want to talk about Goldilocks in the house with the three bears. I'm in this place and I'm seeing a handwritten note from John, the German single gold, pictures. I'm going to, oh no, look at this. That's George. And that's John with a picture with Paul, with Martha that I've never seen before. And I'm crazy. I go to bed and I open up the bedroom doors and it's Ringo's bedroom. 4-poster bed with carved out moons and stars. It was like the Wizard of Oz, a velvet blanket. And I'm going, oh. And I get in bed and I figure, I'm going to Paul McCartney's house tomorrow. I'm going to be there as a producer saying, you know, Paul, maybe you should try to be Mr. Big Shot. But in my mind, I'm out of my step. Yeah. And I go, I got to call my brother Brett, because Paul McCartney I'll call him in America and I'll tell him. Pick up the phone. And when you're Italian, and if someone calls you between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., either a family member has been murdered or put in jail. So I called my brother Brett, and he goes, I'll come and get you. I'll get that. And I went, no, Brett. He goes, what? You're not going to believe where I am. He goes, okay. Because he knows that I'm not well either. And he goes, okay, where are you? And I went, I'm in Ringo's bed. And he said, with Ringo? I went, no, you bastard. I'm in his bed and I'm going. And then I said, and you know where I'm going tomorrow? And he goes, no, where? I went, Paul McCartney's. I gotta go. And I hung the phone up on him. And I wouldn't answer when he called me back. So we go down there and there is Paul McCartney in his house. Are you kidding me? And I'm trying to be cool. You know, it's really weird. You know, when you try to be cool and you're not.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
It's just not a good thing. And I was doing my best to be cool, but this was Paul McCartney. Like you said, Paul McCartney comes in the room and every musician goes, ooh, well, I was the producer. And I'm thinking, you know, and the producer has to be the guy that goes, could you, or maybe you should. And I was scared out of my mind. Jeff Emmerich, rest his soul, was the engineer. Ringo's over here. And I go out to the studio and I play him this song. And Joe Walsh had already played guitar on the track. And I went, what in the world can I do living in a world without you. And he goes, oh, nice one. He goes, it sounds kind of Beatley. And Ringo panicked. And he went, I know. I told him it was too Beatley. And Paul put his hand on me like, he goes, Rich, you're a Beatle. So you're allowed to pinch from yourself when you're one of them.
Yeah.
And it saved it. So can I keep talking on this story?
Yeah, please do, yeah.
Okay, so we go out into the studio, and it's like, and I'm still going in and out. I don't need drugs because I'm going in and out of reality, and then going out of being on the floor watching Ed Sullivan. Then I'm thinking of all of that stuff. And I'm there, and Paul McCartney goes, let me give you a tour of the room. And he takes me into the studio, and he goes, oh, these are the bell chimes. He goes, EMI is getting rid of a lot of the equipment because they're updating like we all do and make a mistake. And McCartney was buying stuff so that he would have the tubular bells. Was, oh, and this is the mellotron. And he started playing the beginning of Strawberry Fields. And I was almost going to hug him like a child, but not let go. And then he goes, come on. And then let me take you down. And we went into it for a bit. I go, this can't be right. He goes, I can tell you're a Beatles fan. And then he started showing me all of this stuff. And he had like a Gibson guitar that John played. And I see the Rickenbacker bass and the Hofner bass. And it really was, it was like a tattoo on my heart. And he goes, all right, what's the song? And I wrote out a chord chart. And there was one chord that I played on the song. The sun will shine on you, and nothing in the world without you. This chord. And I just put fruity. And Paul went, what's that? I go, it's this chord. I don't know what it's called. It's like an A demented or a B. And I showed him on the guitar the chord. He goes, you call that the fruity chord? I went, yeah. He goes, me too. It's always been fruity. And he started thumbing me because evidently the fruity chord he had used sometime as, I don't know what this chord is, but it's beautiful and fruity. And I'm looking at you and me. But John, I'm in the room and I'm back to back with Paul McCartney. And I'm playing the Gibson guitar and we're doing this, what in the world what can I do? And all my backgrounds are like what the boys would have done anyway. And McCartney's looking at me like he knows that I'm a fan, but he's being gracious enough to allow me to be that.
Yeah. So
as we're singing on this microphone, I'm looking into the studio and I see Ringo with his arms folded, Jeff Emmerich doing stuff. And under my breath on the microphone, I go, take a picture. Ringo, take a picture. Because there I am with Paul McCartney. It was like, take a picture. And Ringo's looking at me smiling and going like, nope. And I went crazy. So the whole day, I got to sing background with him. And, in my life, I'd be singing background, but pretending one of my brothers was George or Paul. And now I'm doing it and I look over and right here is Paul McCartney with Paul McCartney's voice singing like Paul McCartney. I don't know. It's weird because after I'm finished working, when I write a song, I hear it finished before it's done.
Yeah. Like
when you sent me your stuff, as soon as I lived with it for 5 minutes, I went, I know what this is supposed to be. And then I just attack it.
Yeah.
And this was a situation where it was really Beatley because Ringo on drums, Paul on bass and vocals. And he's playing this. And the fruity chord on the bass was supposed to be a C sharp note. And I'm in there with Ringo and Jeff Emmerich. And Paul's playing bass and he's playing a Hofner. And it's just like, I had to remove myself so I could be that other guy, the producer. And Paul keeps hitting the wrong note. And I go to Ringo, because I was afraid. Rich, you know the fruity chord? Yeah, I know the fruit. Yeah, he's supposed to play a C sharp, and he's playing a C. And Ringo goes, tell him. And I look at Jeff Emmerich, and he goes, I'm not doing it. So I'm thinking, oh my God, you mean I have to? And I was scared. Once again, I only did this because of him. And now I'm going to press a button and tell him something that I think. And I felt so unworthy. I know you said, oh, get over yourself. When you're in there working and it is them, it's different than seeing the picture or the YouTube or the Sullivan show. It's like, there he is. And I saw how he holds his finger when he sips his tea. It's all of that stuff. And Ringo just said, not me. Emmerich went, not me. So it was me. And Paul's there like this. And I pressed the talkback button. And I kind of turned into Woody Allen. Paul, yeah, Mark, what? You know the fruity cold? Oh, yeah, we love the fruit. The fruity cold. And I went, well, you're playing a C, and it's supposed to be a C sharp. And then I cringed, waiting for him to go like, get out of my studio. Do you know who you're talking to? But I was waiting for this horrible thing. And he goes, oh, yeah, great. Thanks, Paul. And I'm waiting for this. I'm having the police show up. I'm throwing you off my property. And it made me learn something, Johnny. It made me go, when you're the real deal, like the Beatles and the real deal, and even when we're seeing these new Peter Jackson films on them, Mal Evans, the roadie, would go, you know, you should say, and he would say a line, and he'd go, oh, yeah, great. And they would write it. So big, but not big at all. Mm. Like the greatest, we will never see the Beatles ever again, no matter what. Not going to happen. No. At least in my lifetime. I would bet on it.
It's not.
And all of a sudden, there is this guy going, oh, yeah, give it to me. Mm. And I was waiting for it. And the same thing happened with Eric Clapton when he played guitar on the George song for Ringo, which is another story I could say. And he asked me a chord change, and I thought he was joking. You know, Mark, that thing you're doing in the bridge in the middle eight? And I went, yeah. And he goes, what? And he's asking me a question. And I'm thinking, in my mind, being the fan again, I'm going, Eric Clapton just asked me what this chord progression was. And it was a joke, but I accepted it. And it also let me know that a lot of the great ones are accepting it all of the time. Mm. It's the mediocre ones that get pissed off because they're not the Beatles.
Yeah.
So they'll cop an attitude. But all the great ones, they want it all. Tell me more. Well, give me more.
That's when it comes down to, the bones of it. There's a group of musicians who respect each other. Mutual respect. You're in a room and you're just doing the music.
You are. But I must admit, though, it was a little odd when it was a Beatle doing it because of what he had meant to me.
So were you ever in the room? Because they were both on that first album. You've got 3 Beatles on that album. Were they ever in the room together? Have you ever been in the room?
No,
because you were bad enough when you were just with Ringo in the room. I can't imagine the 3.
Well, no, but so Paul brought out like a vegan lunch. Cauliflower dipped in bark and footprint and all the organic stuff. And I'm more of a beef boy. Yeah. But I'm figuring if I'm here, when in Rome, give me some cauliflower. So I was there and just sitting in the kitchen. And I had another moment. You see, but Johnny, it's good that you're almost becoming like my psychiatrist. Because you're bringing stuff out of me that I either tried to hide because I had to be something else, or I was afraid to admit, because when you admit anything, you're vulnerable. Mm. And I was sitting there, and there they are eating, and it's Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney right next door to each other, talking as if I was in the band with them the entire time the Beatles were there. But I probably ate so much cauliflower, it became like a diarrhea fest.
Yeah, it's not good.
It wasn't good. It wasn't. And the dip was even... Anyway, but the thing is, I'm listening to them and looking at them, and I thought, and I wrote about it later in my journal. I don't diary, but when something makes a big difference to me, I put it down. Like when I got my brick in the wall, that made it. When you and I did the thing in Cavern, that made it because we were taking the piss at each other, but having so much fun.
We did a John Lennon thing, didn't we? Yeah. On my 50th birthday as well, it was.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And you've aged beautifully, Johnny.
I know, like an old cheese.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the thing was, I was trying not to be that kid, but the virtue were across the table for me.
Mm.
And I was trying not to be in awe, but I was in awe. And you know what? I got to see them musically, both of them. How McCartney did it, how Ringo did it, and I'm sure they're not any different than when they were a Beatle.
What you we're talking about seeing those two working together? What's your take on Now and Then? Because obviously they're the two Beatles are left. They're the ones that have taken it over the line. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, this is what the thing is to me. I love it. The other side of it, and and I've read some fellow musicians or people's opinions or whatever. Get over yourself, world. It's the Beatles.
Exactly.
No matter what, and you know what? I'm sure, and the way that I knew John, and he was very opinionated and cynical and funny, and had the Liverpudlian sense of humor that a lot of people don't understand. I think that he would have gone, guys, it was just a demo. I was just sitting at the piano in my pajamas.
Yeah. But are they wrong to do that, or are they right to do that?
No. You know what? I don't think they're wrong to do it because they knew each other so well since they were children.
Mm.
It wasn't like John in heaven or George in heaven, like they didn't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
He knew how Ringo's drums were. They were a band.
Yeah.
And even though they changed things here and there, I think that John was going, it's just a demo. If I was going to, when you see all the bootlegs now of how they change stuff, he said, I know what it's like to, and you see the original demo and then how it ends up. I'm sure he would have wished he could have still been around so they could have done that thing.
Mm.
But it was beautiful. And Giles taking over.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was listening to Giles on a podcast the other day about Abbey Road. It was more about Abbey Road and all the different, talk about like it's in safe hands, absolutely.
Well, no, it is. And because of his father and even his musicale writing the string chart, it's just sort of, and Paul was gracious enough to go, George would have put on a slide solo. So I did one in George land, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And look, Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. The Beatles are the Beatles.
Yeah.
And if there's only two of them left, there's still two Beatles.
Yeah. I got asked, we did, when it came out, we did press on it, in the Cavern.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying, what do you think it's going to be like before it came out? And, the anticipation. I said, look, this is the Beatles. They're not going to put it out if it's not going to be amazing.
Not going to happen.
Trust in the Beatles.
Not gonna, yeah, and God bless Peter Jackson too, who found out the method of pulling the piano off the track and just having it be John's voice, so they could control the modern way of where he would be in the Beatles song.
Yeah, exactly. Using what is available now to do, which is what we always say. Of course, that's what the Beatles did then. They were pioneers. It just continues,
and they kept the entire time. They were inventing stuff.
Yeah. I've got to go back. If you don't mind, I'm going to go back to you about John and John. Was that in LA during that 74, 73 period?
Yeah. During his last weekend.
Yeah. I thought it was.
73. And my brothers and I were signed to Rocket Records, Elton John's label. Bernie was our producer. I think it was the second album, the Bafa album. And we were in LA. And I loved all of the Beatles for everything that all four of them did. But Lennon was my reason to exist. The stuff that he was saying in the Beatles, the stuff that he was saying, Paul McCartney would do Hello Goodbye and Lennon would do I'm the Walrus. Paul would do Penny Lane, Lennon would do Strawberry Fields. And that sort of bitingness of Lennon was always my reason to exist. So, and every Hudson Brother album, by the way, I always thanked on the liner notes, John Lennon is always thanked.
Yeah.
Always. Even before I knew him.
Yeah.
So we were at this party at Rocket Records, and the people in LA were out there. And, the LA people are sometimes too groovy for their own good. And they went, oh yeah, there's a Beatle upstairs. I don't know which one it is, but he's just hanging out. But they've broken up and they're done. These California people are saying. And I knew that John was friends with Elton. And I went, is it John Lennon? Yeah. And then like a cartoon, I just darted off. John ran up the steps. And there he was, sitting by himself with a cigarette and a drink. I couldn't believe it. And there he was. And no one was around him. And he was content. And I ran up to him, being the marquee that you know. And I went, John, my name is Mark Hudson. We're on Rocket Records. And because of you, you're the Walrus, but I wanted to be the Walrus. You have Yoko. I'm dating a black girl named Coco. And he's like looking at me like I'm on crack. And he goes, sit down. And I sat down next to him. He goes, all right, Hudson, you can ask me one Beatle question every time we're together. You ask me two, I'll punch you in the head.
Love it.
And I got punched by John Lennon 4 times. And not that night, but over me meeting him. And it wasn't like knocking me out. It was sort of like, it was just like, she's well acquainted with the touch of a velvet hand, like a lizard on a window pane. And I started getting in touch with metaphors. And John went, I write metaphor, you make up the meaning. And when he said that to me, part of it broke my heart because the lyrics that he did meant so much to me. And then he goes, I write in metaphor, you make up the meaning. Well acquainted with the touch of the velvet hand like a lizard on the window. It meant nothing. It sounded good coming out of my mouth. And then he sang a bit and I went, oh my God, there it is. Elton came over and sat down on the other side and goes, John, I'm sorry. He's the crazy Hudson, which was me.
Yeah.
Somewhere a photographer took a picture of Elton John, me, and John Lennon. And I went, oh, as the guy's taking the picture, I went, oh, there's really something wrong with this picture. And at the same time, they both went, yeah, you, pointing at me. But once again, Liverpudlian sense of humor.
Yeah.
The rock and rollness of it. And got to know him through Elton during the last weekend period.
Yeah.
Elton would take us to some bars or clubs that were questionable, but we were drinking so much back then, nothing made any difference. So on the disco, the song comes on, when will I see you again? Da-da-da-da, precious moments. And John went, oh, I love this song. Another slap in my face, like, wait a minute. You're John Lennon liking a song by 3 Degrees? And he goes, come on, Hudson, let's go have a dance. And he gets the 3 of us, and we're on the dance floor to that song. And it's another one of those moments, John, where we're out of body, out of my own mind. I'm on a dance floor in a bar that I never should have been in with John Lennon grooving to a soul song because he loved the song. And that made me go, oh, wait a minute, he's a Beatle. He did I'm So Tired and Hard Day's Night and Julia. Now he's liking this soul song. And it let me know at that time that it's about the song, not about anything else.
No, I was just going to say about, I think it's fair to say when you come to Liverpool for Beatle Week, you do enjoy it.
There's no, I've done Beatle festivals all over. I mean, I just did one in Germany that I would like to forget. But the Earl Slick got sick and I became Stunt Earl.
Right. Okay.
The Beatle Fest in Liverpool is the Rolls Royce of any, because it's the city, it's the people, it's the music, it's all of that stuff that made them be that. And you can see it when you're there. So I walk around with Earl Slick just to go down by the water and get fish and chips. And he's going, will you stop this? No, we're going to Jon's house. And I'm as much of a fan as I am someone that's known them all and worked with.
I said to Earl when we spoke to him that when the two of you are walking around Liverpool together, you know, it's not you don't draw attention at all. You know, it's
well,
you know what makes me laugh though, Mark. I mean, it's fair to say, you know, whenever you come to Liverpool for international people, we really like to spoil you, don't we? You know, remember the time we gave you those personal security guards outside the apartment we put you in? That was. I thought you were going to kill me that year.
When I had to step over a dead guy in the street,
he's practically dead. Yeah,
I wanted to choke you.
Yeah,
but you know what? Everybody. Here's the other thing. Everybody from every capacity, from Ray to Paul, over there next to you.
Yeah,
the treatment of the act. You guys love the Beatles and that as much as we do as fans.
Yeah, and
when you're treated like that, you don't get treated any better.
Yeah,
like no matter what.
We're all fans. We're all musicians, and it's great. We had when you were last here in 2022, and you did a Ringo show, and you also guested on when we got Jon's last band together, which we spoke about at length with Earl. I remember when you rang me up and said, right, we've all arrived. We're at the hotel, and me and Phil bombed round to see you. And we ended up having dinner in the hotel, and there was, you know, Tony Levin, Andy Newmark, and the stories, just that, and then as you lot are all talking, it's realizing, oh, you know so and so. The whole industry, isn't it? It's all so connected, and the stories are just lovely.
It's really tiny, but you know, it's an interesting thing because there are people that would exploit their career. I mean, once again, you know, I can say, I always make a joke that 3 of the 4 Beatles yelled at me in anger, and the only one that didn't was Paul, because Jon, Ringo, Mark, and then George. I made a mistake. You know, when he did this, he did an album with Ravi Shankar, and he made a baseball hat with the Om sign.
Okay.
I went, wow, that's so great. I want to do that for my studio. I'll make a purple hat. I'll put the Om sign, and then on the back I'll say, "There's no place like Om." And I thought I was being clever, and I made the hat. And you know, George was a major gardener. He would go to places and buy trees that were 300 years old. And Ringo and George were going to like a plant fair, and Ringo and Barbara were wearing the purple Om hat.
Okay.
And George went, I didn't know I made them in purple. And Ringo, oh, it's not you. It's, you know, it's Mark. She did it for the. And George went crazy.
Because you were taking
because he goes, he stole my design. And then Ringo went, you know, George, it is 5,000 years old. You know, the Om sign has been there way before.
You're not getting copyright on that one, are you?
No, but you know what? He did something that, in my stupidity, George actually turned the Om sign to a degree where it looks like 33 1/3. It almost looks like a number as opposed to the Om sign.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know. I had my George hat, and I said, copy that, but in purple. Yeah. And then Ringo said, you better apologize. So we called George, and I had to say, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. Once again, Woody Allen, you turned the thing when I didn't turning on the thing. And he forgave me. 3 Beatles.
Well,
I'm trying to. I want to piss off McCartney. I want him to yell at me too at one point. So
I can't see him ever yelling at anyone, not in
public. You know, it was interesting because when he wrote a thing for the New York City Ballet, and he wrote the symphony for it. Kingdom. Ocean's. Thank you. Ocean's Kingdom.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. And we went, and then Melissa was a ballerina for New York City Ballet.
Yeah.
So she was hot stuff, and we're showing up together, And I just wanted to be there to see Paul. And all of a sudden they go, "Oh, McCartney's here," and everyone's going crazy. And he walks up this winding staircase, and at the top of the steps, he sees me and he goes, "Hey, Mark." Like, he remembered my name, John. Mark. And once again, there I am being that stupid fan going, he knew, but it was very impressive to Melissa. He shakes my hand. He goes, "And this is my," and he introduces it to his wife. "And this is Melissa, oh, ballerina." And we have that moment. And then we get to sit in the audience with Paul McCartney, his symphony, doing this thing for the ballet. And it's one of those things where, you know, when you see, what was the movie with Tom Hanks when, when he was like, he met everybody, the Kennedys and the Forrest Gump.
Yeah, Forrest Gump, yeah.
Forrest Gump. I'm kind of like a musical Gump because I've been with, Keith Moon giving me his drumsticks that I still have. I'm such a fan. I have to go, my split personality, I have to go, "No, Mark, you're the songwriter. This is what you do." And it's interesting. The song that I wrote for Aerosmith and won a Grammy, I based it only on John Lennon.
Okay.
This was Aerosmith. "Do look like a lady." That's all they do, loving an elevate. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, something's wrong with the world today. I don't know what it is. Thinking of Lennon, and John was gone, and no one was doing instant karma. Power to the people. Give peace a chance. No one was doing it. And I just figured, living on the edge. And then when Stephen heard the first verse, and he went, "John Lennon's in the room. Lennon's in the room. He's in the room!" And his mouth, I've never seen a mouth that big. You could park your car in his mouth. And he knew that I got that from John.
Yeah.
Now, here's like the inside scoop story. We're doing it, living on the edge, and there was no middle eight. And Stephen's all excited, going like, "Marco, you got to have a middle eight." And I had nothing, John. I had nothing. I had the song and the chorus and the riff. Kind of a sitar, Harrison-esque thing. And I said maybe the fastest prayer anyone could ever say. "John, God, send me something." As I'm strumming. And in that nanosecond, and I swear on my daughter that this is the truth, I went into, "Tell me what you think about your situation, complications, aggravations." And then I think of Lennon's metaphor. If Chicken Little tells you that the sky is falling, even if it wasn't, would you still come crawling back again? Very John, very this and that. And it came out of me.
Very give me some truth-ish.
It was, you're right. It was, if Chicken Little tells you that the sky, it was very give me some truth. In fact, now you just gave me, I got the chills. Either that or I have gas. But you saying that, I never thought of that until you just said that. And now it's like, oh God, yes.
Yeah.
It is. But anyway, the thing is, they have followed me my entire life. They will follow me till I take the dirt nap.
Mr. Hudson, you have such a way with words. Anyway, listen, I have to ask you about the Hudson brothers. You're back together.
Yeah, that whole thing was sort of out of the blue. Still brothers, still a family.
Yeah.
And I was in LA, and I was talking to my older brother, and I said, "Why not? It's not a matter of it being a hit or making a lot of money, but what it would do would be it would bring us back to being us." And it's like the one thing that we learned in watching the Peter Jackson Beatles thing. We thought that the whole Let It Be process was a horrible argument with love. And all of a sudden, when you see it broken down, you could see them having so much fun from how they knew each other for all of those years.
Yeah.
Forget what they felt then, or you still could feel that connection. And I said it to my brother, we're not getting any younger. The three of us are still here. Why don't we just do something light and go on a stage, make fun of each other like we do, And then my brother Bill said, could we get Earl? I said, Earl will be our guitar player. So I called Earl and I went, you're going to be in the Hudson Brothers band. He goes, okay, send me the songs. Like, it was that simple.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
You got to love Earl.
Call my agent.
Love him. No.
It's just, it is what it is. And how beautiful is that?
So your other two brothers, have they continued in music? You know, because no. Okay, so this is for you. I mean, you've just continued on this.
I'm just doing what I've always been doing since. They went, they would always still play, and we would get together for a holiday. But it never was like I'm going on stage and making a fool of myself, or I'm going to hit that high note that I used to hit when I was 24. It was my brother Brett did the documentary on Monty Python, on the Who Is Neil in It. That was his.
Okay.
That was his film,
right.
And he did one with Kiss, and he was doing like documentary films. My brother Bill kept marrying actresses like Goldie Hawn.
Okay, all right, okay.
Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley, and he came up with an idea to get screenplays, because you can buy a screenplay. If you have a favorite movie, you can approach to own that screenplay for a matter of time. And he loved the movie Father of the Bride. He got the rights to the book. I think it was Diane Keaton and Steve Martin.
Huge.
They did two of them. Huge hit.
Mm.
And so once again, I go back to me, talented and well endowed, and it stops there.
But at least you're consistent. You can't say you're not consistent.
No. You know what it is? I still love what I do.
Mm. Okay, we're asking all of our guests on the Cavern podcast for their 3 favorite songs by Liverpool artists, because we're compiling this Cavern podcast playlist on Spotify. Have you got 3 Liverpool songs you want to put in?
Well, I do. I mean, I love the Mersey Beats until you told me that they were the Merseys before.
No, it was the other way around. They were the Mersey Beats, but their big hit, their big hit came when they changed the name to the Merseys. So it's probably about 66. I might be corrected. When they had the big hit was Sorrow, which of course,
yes, and that's the one. That's one of my choices.
Well, that's a great song. I mean, I actually think. I mean, Bowie's version is absolutely lifted from that, because I think I've heard another version of it, but it's such a good version of it. It's got
and they were a great band.
Well, the Mersey Beats still play the Cavern.
Is it the original still?
We got the original Tony Crane, who's the original lead singer.
Yeah, that I know.
Yeah. Well, Tony, he was in our place last week doing a Mersey Beat discussion. We had loads of guys for a documentary of friends making. A load of the Mersey Beat guys all around talking about the memories and stuff. But Tony, the Mersey Beats play every year still, and it's I think they made their debut in 1963, and they're still playing the Cavern.
Hey, and still doing it.
It's all about
what? We're supposed to do what we love.
Yeah. Okay.
And God bless them.
Yeah.
And then I'd also Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Okay.
To me.
Okay. Well, go on, Jerry and the Pacemakers. Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. What? Did I do something wrong?
No. Never. No, I was going to say some of our guests have already chosen some, so I'm interested if we're going to be able to allow which one are you going to go for?
Oh, I see.
It's getting difficult. It's like a proper quiz now, because I might not allow this.
Terry Cross.
I think it's gone. I think Billy Bob Thornton took that one.
Okay. How about Billy J. Kramer?
Oh, Billy! No one's Billy J. Kramer was at Beatle Week this year. 2023.
Yeah, no, I know. He just recorded an album in Abbey Road.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wrote a song for him.
Yeah, and we
Lawrence Juber from Wings producing, Steve Hawley from Wings on drums.
Yeah,
and other people. But Billy J. He always tells the story about when he was with John, and John said, "Oh, I got a song for you." And what was it?
Was Bad to Me?
Bad to Me.
Yeah.
And he goes, he played Bad to Me, and then he played this other song, and he went, "Oh, I'll have that one." And Lennon went, "No, that's ours." And it was, "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
Okay.
Yes, it was, "I Want to Hold Your Hand." And Billy went, "I'll take that one." John went, "No, you won't.
You can have Bad to Me.
Yeah, so that would be a great, but I love Billy J. and the Dakotas. that would be another one of my choices if we get out of that.
Yeah, no, that's great to have Billy J in there as well. It's great to see him this year at Beatle Week. He's in really good nick, and he was so he's talking well, he's singing well. It's great, lovely guy.
You know what's really cool? Whenever we're together, he loves the song "Slow Down." Well, come on, pretty baby, won't you walk with me? And he asked to do it with me on stage.
Well, I did that with you on the Cavern front stage years ago.
I remember.
It was the last day of Beatle Week, and a band had pulled out because it's 7 days of non-stop music, as we're saying. A band had pulled out, and a scratch band with probably some of the Rockets, maybe some of the Cavern Club Beatles, and me and you. And you dragged me up there, and you said, "Come on, Johnny, we're going to do it." And I was knackered. And you get up there, and of course you are a lunatic, and you're still doing these songs in the original key.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
And I remember going, it was so high, but I blagged it. I got there. So
once you get out of your own way, you can rock like the rest of them, John. And we did that night.
Yeah, we did.
Now the thing with Billy J. Now I don't know if this is Liverpudlian or if it's he would body slam me on, run up next to me and kind of hit me.
He's a big guy as well. Yeah.
Well, he almost knocked me off the stage a couple of times. But he does it every single time. And I'm thinking, what does that mean? And I don't know. And I don't care because he delivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that would be another one of my choices.
Okay, that's in there. Okay, and number 3
is... Okay, so we have Merseys.
Yeah, so you got the Merseys with Sorrow, Billy J. Kramer, Bad to Me, and you're gonna go for a Beatles song? I think I have to. Okay, now this. I
mean, now does everybody go for a Beatles song?
What do you think, Paul? I think maybe there's been one who didn't. Steve Rotherham, I think, who's our mayor here in Liverpool. Did he go for a Beatles song? No, he did. Yeah, I think there's usually one Beatles song in there.
You see, I'm not sure. We always go, "Oh, we better stay away from that." It's a Beatles.
No,
that's all. That's the reason why we're all here.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I couldn't have put it better myself. Well, we'll wrap it up now, but I've got to say, and this has been on my desk for about 8 years. I remember, so we've got the Wall of Fame, for anyone who doesn't know, opposite the Cavern Club on Matthew Street. And originally we unveiled it in 1997, which was the 40th anniversary of the Cavern. And anyone since then, artists of note who play the venue, we induct them into the wall. So we inducted you maybe 2012, 2013. Yeah. And I did it. And I remember you had the brick in your hand and you said, "Oh, this is great." And we do the picture and it goes in the wall, but you went to take it away.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, you can't, this, we actually put it in the wall. And you were like, I want to put it home in my apartment. I said, no. And I said, I'll get you another one. I said, I'll get you another one that you can take home.
I know.
And I did. And it's still on my desk to this day. Every time you come back here, I keep forgetting to give it to you. It's still there. I saw it yesterday.
Well, now, Melissa, you'll remember. Remember that.
It's a
that's so. And my dear friend Earl Slick goes, "Are you on the wall, Marky?" I mean, "Of course I'm on the wall." He goes, "So am I." So, "Well, Earl, that's really good." He goes, "Do I have a better position than you?" So, what difference does it make? You're in the wall.
That's a musician thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Talking of gifts, I remember I gave you a gift many years ago in our office, and it was a picture of Jesus Christ with an Elvis Presley twist to it. And have you still got it? I hope you still got it.
Of course I do.
It's on his desk.
It's on my desk.
Oh, I love it. Elvis is God. Elvis is God.
Elvis is God. No question.
I love it. Right.
It's great.
Right. We're going for a pint. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day.
Have one for me, brother.
We will do. Melissa, we love you dearly.
Love you.
Love you completely.
I must say, when we did this with Earl, we were joined by his 12-month-old rather large puppy, the Tank. Yeah, who we're going to actually use on the trailer, and we're going to use it as a way of trying to tap into that dog crowd, because that's a massive crowd now. But Melissa, you've been a good addition and a much improvement. There she is, the lovely Melissa. A much improvement on Tank the dog. So thanks.
I love Tank. He's amazing.
He's lively as well. All you can hear.
Oh, for sure.
We were just with him last week.
Yeah.
And he's getting big.
He's grown even.
He's huge.
He's massive.
But all you can hear on the recording of Earl's episode is just.
Well,
Yeah,
And it's not the dog.
Earl.
It's not the dog. I didn't know what Earl was doing with his hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as mine are up here.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the Cavern Podcast, and we'll see you soon. Both take care. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cavern Podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it. Remember, we can't do this without you, the audience. So please like, share, and subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, get involved on our socials and tell us your Cavern stories. See you next time on the Cavern Podcast.